Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of In Scope. I have a friend and colleague of mine here, Jesse White. He's field CTO of Katalyst, and he's been a big part of our Scope Stack journey, and I'm just excited to have him here today. So thank you for joining us.
John, excited to be here, and to the audience, thanks for tuning in. What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about the importance of culture in a pre-sales team. So I've seen you build some pretty awesome teams, and they always have something special in them. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Why is it important? What are some of the things that you do? And y'all are going to want to listen to this. Don't ignore what he says, because he knows what he's talking about.
My team may take broad offense to that statement. It's anything that I do. But it's a cosmic issue that I think a lot of people struggle with. And if nothing else, happy to share what I think, are key points. Something you just mentioned, does it start with who you hire? Yeah. Is it something that you can build even if it is a bad hire? I know a lot of people you work with and they're all great hires. So appreciate you saying that. For those stalking LinkedIn, we won't try to recruit or retain any of my people, but I would say this: every employee that we onboard at Katalyst has literally a DISC assessment done, and we meet. So, John, let's say you were coming on to our company.
Yes, that
would be great in and of itself. But
I'm not sure I'd get past this assessment.
This is where I'm going. If you let me play the story out,
sorry.
You would take about a 90-minute behavioral assessment, and from that, we would meet behind your back with a psychologist, and she would profile you and plot you based on your behavioral intentions against all the other folks in our organization that have had success in similar role.
Interesting.
And so, what we've tried to do, literally, before we've even shaken hands, right? Had an in-person, on-site interview. I know people are starting to do those things again.
Yeah.
We have a pretty good understanding of what makes that person tick, right? We know there are coin-operated people in the solutions engineering space. There are propeller head-operated people, ones that just are so curious. And in the first, persona, if you will, you can almost smell that, as we like to call it, commission breath coming through their assessment. And It's like, that is not a fit for us.
Right.
And the curious person, which is a requirement for anybody on my team, clearly comes through in a completely different light. And so I think culture starts, innately in a person. It's something that I think is somewhat teachable, but mostly nature.
Yeah.
People either have the attributes that you want to incorporate to your team. And then I think the other thing that a lot of people get wrong is they hire for what they call a culture fit. And I think my philosophy, and I think the one that our company embodies, is a culture add. Right. And so we have swim lanes, and, we run our organization on the entrepreneurial operating system, and we have our core values and ideal client profile, and all of these things clearly documented.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about clarity and culture here in a second. But I really do think that making sure fundamentally getting that part of the equation right solves a lot of other problems.
I always know from my past experience of hiring someone, right, and finding someone that is good at pre-sales. Someone explained it to me as a Jedi Knight, right? It's a very unique individual that has that level of curiosity, but that can talk to a client, talk business outcomes, and talk to, where you want to take this business, right? And so have you found that to be the same? Is it hard finding the right, really talking about pre-sales?
Yeah. And I think it's hard to find that person in any realm in technology, right? When we talk about, what we talk about is being a chameleon, right? And so no matter what setting a reasonably good solutions engineer, pre-sales engineer is in, they have to operate with this perception of the people that are around them, right?
Yeah.
And usually you'll talk to who you sound like, but great pre-sales or solutions engineers are able to elevate and climb that escalator of relevancy as they move throughout the organization. And so, there's these 6 keys to winning, and so many times that inside champion, right? That relationship is not owned by the seller. it's owned by the solutions engineer.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are having, cocktails with the family or going to the barbecue or whatever
Right.
on the weekend. Once you forge relationships like that, this perception of trusted advisor really shines through, I think.
Well, I think that's part of the reason they're one of the most valuable resources in some of these organizations, right? Not the most valuable, but one of the most valuable.
Yeah.
Also the most expensive.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I think the good ones, are well compensated. I think solutions engineers, in general, if you were to line 1,000 of them up, and pick, 3 of them out, there's one similarity that they all have, and that is they almost want to stand a little bit under someone else's risk umbrella, right? And so while they don't mind confrontation or conflict or asking hard questions, one of the things that I think is that cautious, left brain, right brain kind of collision between a traditional seller and a solutions engineer, and where we see culture really stand out is when we can get those competent solutions engineers to step a little bit out of their comfort zone and lead from the front. And I think this is fundamentally when you find someone that can do that, and I have the benefit of having several on my team, the transformation that can take place in your organization it's immeasurable, really. Yeah.
Like, so going back to the whole culture piece and really the relationships that a pre-sales engineer can have with the sales executive, like, do you find yourselves matching certain characteristics in a seller and a pre-sales engineer? Like, how do you go about putting those pieces together?
So there's really 4 roles of the solutions engineer. I think there's actually like a Dilbert about this, right? But the first one is marriage counselor, right? And so I think, depending on who they're paired up with, they're always that rock and confidant for their seller. And if they're in a shared role, it's the same thing, just at a less, severe level. Yeah. What I also would say is that pairing and matching strengths and weaknesses is something that we use that tool for. Okay. Right. So if we have a very high influence person and a very dominant person, you put those two together, you may have a recipe for butting heads, right? But if you put a planner, wedding kind of coordinator person and a very strong solutions engineer together, you'll have a Batman and Robin team that really goes well.
And is it based on experience that what will work well together? Yeah. And like you've just been around, you've seen it enough times to know like, hey, that person, it's not going to work.
Yep. So what we do is, again, we literally use a psychologist to help make that decision, because it can be tarnishing to the culture to have the wrong pairings of people. Yeah. Right. And sometimes the velocity in which our business runs, we don't always have an opportunity to get that perfect, and we make some adjustments later. But the other big thing in that is and the thing that I think most impacts our culture is clarity. And what I mean by clarity is clarity is the key to speed, right? It's the key to velocity. It's the key to focusing, people. And I think when culture gets out of whack, it's because people are going all over the place. And because of that, we really focus on clarity in making sure our culture is whole. Yeah. For sure.
So myself, as well as many other people, have seen a few posts you've had out on LinkedIn. One of them was where you had,
ponchos.
Was it a poncho? Yeah. So you had ponchos of paper on people, and why'd you make them do that?
Well, this was one of the best exercises I think that we've ever done. I didn't think through some of the logistics of it. Some people wore their best shirts and were worried about the Sharpies, and obviously there's the personal bubble,
and you learn,
right? And some people have this space that they don't want people getting in. I don't know what that is.
It's not on the assessment.
Yeah, it could be the Northern Advantage. I don't know. I think that's actually, a turn of phrase. But this is really around just what we call radical candor, right? And a culture of not letting problems fester and not letting things that are small and maybe seen as unimportant turn into, major challenges in the business. Right. So that exercise, which is one we'll certainly do again. We've got another one for our next all hands. We do these things quarterly, and it's a great fun time to really help build relationships, because we've all been a little disconnected. Have you heard of this thing? It was, I can't remember what it's called. COVID. Yes. Yes. I think we're past that. But the whole point there is in our culture, we truly believe that if we work to amplify the strengths of our people, versus correcting the weaknesses, we will have better results. And so I could spend all day telling you all the things that you do terribly, right? It'd be easy.
We don't have time for that.
It'd be easy for me. I could, share experiences and challenges that I've had, and how you either contributed to my success or took me away from the goal. And in all seriousness, you could do the same thing to me, and it would take a lot longer. Or I could spend that focus enabling you to be great at the 4 things that really make you who you. Or you could do the same for me. You could say, hey, Jesse, we want to work on your presence because we feel like that needs help, right? Or you could say, maybe you use comedy more in your podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
There's just lots of things that I think we get wrong, and we try to overcorrect and course correct things that you can't really change instead of amplifying the strengths that people have. And that's what we've chosen to do. So your original question, what's the poncho exercise? You literally take a piece of the tear off poster board, right? It's $40 for that pad of paper now. The cost of everyth's gone up. I've heard, it's been nuts. That being said, you fold it twice, in half and in half, and you tear a small, semicircle out of it at this point, and then you adorn yourself with it. And on the front, you have your team members write the one thing that you do that enables our company to dominate our market. Right? And everybody can see that, and they're happy about it, and it's just a very powerful thing. But on the back, you write the one thing that John Scott's doing that's holding our company back. Right?
Interesting.
And the goal is, and you certainly familiar with Greek mythology and Roman mythology, right? Yes. You know that Medusa, if you looked at her, you would turn to stone. But where we get our actual calendar, January, from was a Roman god. And she had 2 faces. One was happy and always looking forward, and the other one was very displeasant and looking backwards. She was a 2-headed goddess. The point is that you're supposed to always be looking to improve in both ways, not being completely oblivious to your weaknesses, right? Obliquely aware of them. But that was a fascinating exercise, and my hope is that it was encouraging and fun and a great team building thing. But then when the people got home, that they literally unfolded their poncho, because we didn't look at the back of them, and in a point of reflection, they could see what their peers said about them. And we changed colors. So if you had a red one, I wouldn't know it was you. I would have signed my name. But again, back to that radical candor of building that. And that's where really the third thing I think is just trust. Yeah. Right. And in solutions engineers, there's not a bigger trust component, because essentially your seller is putting the destination and the future of their solution and their commission check, right, in your hands for a period of time. And then from there, your most importantly, client is just 100% entrusting you to bring the right solution, process, methodology, all these things that we talk about. And it's it's a high velocity role. And there's a lot of room for error if you're not skilled at it. So,
well, I think just to kind of wrap this up, one of the reasons we wanted to start our very first podcast episode with this topic is sometimes we overlook these important aspects of building a business and building a great team. And we go straight to the nuts and bolts of workflows and automation and all the things that we love talking about, right? But like, until you have a really solid core of culture and clarity, it's really hard to then make a scalable process. So what is, to wrap this up, like what is one thing that you would suggest or you could recommend to people that they can do as like a first step? Is it get engaged with a psychologist? Is it?
Yeah, I think that's made a tremendous business. And I know a lot of our competitors do that, right? Yeah. It's a service that I think a lot of us subscribe to, because the most costly thing we can do is A, not serve our customer, but B, make a bad hire, right? And so that invest is huge. But I think really, for me at least, and making sure that you're driving that, kind of in a 360 view, is the power of kind of the one-on-one. Right. And making sure that, one of the things we do in our company is like the star rating system. So John, how happy are you on a 1 to 5? in your career, in your destination, in your journey at Katalyst? Well, I'm a 4.2. But John, my job as your leader is to get you to a 5, and I want to keep you at a 5. And if there's challenges, right, literally talk about those things. But I really do think providing your teammates, again, my people work with me, not for me. I get in the trenches with them every day and enjoy that. But making sure that you're excavating, a lot of times people, believe it or not, sometimes people won't actually tell you what they were really thinking. Right?
Yeah. Right.
And so having a process to kind of excavate that real thing that's, in the back of their mind or in the challenge that they may not share is key. And of course, you got to have trust first, right? And you work to earn trust. You don't automatically get it. But I do think, John, that that clarity piece, and then getting from your team an understanding of exactly what's on the back of your own poncho, right, and what's on the front of it. And I think working on amplifying those things is really big. So if you said, Jesse, what's the one thing, I would say focus on amplifying your people's strengths. There's this book, and it talks about the red thread. And the whole thought is that in the event that you're doing something that you love, generally your strengths, right? Yeah. Your person, yourself is going to be like 40 times more productive. Right. So think about that, right? It's huge, the average SE is carrying a $2 million gross profit number, right? Or whatever it is, right. Can make them happier. They're going to make more. Right. And it's a win-win. So
again, back to the importance of it. Right. Yeah. So
massive.
Well, tell us, I love everything you're about and all your wisdom and all this great stuff. Right. But, plus your beard is cool. Tell us where can people find more about you, your business?
So I LinkedIn is the way to get a hold of me, I would say. It's really the only way. I think it's becoming ubiquitous in the world. And then Katalyst is literally, what we like to say, John, is we are our clients' tour guides, not travel agents. And so we don't want to be transactional. We want to be in the journey with our customers from start to finish, whatever their destination is. And so KatalystNG.com is the place to get the buzz, the feeds, everything that you need to know about us. And I appreciate you calling me for your first show. Who canceled? That's
there was a long list of people that canceled.
I just want to make sure.
I'm glad you came through, as you always do. So
thank you.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Stay tuned. See you out there.
Thanks, guys.